Welcome to the 80th episode of Reanimated, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Stuart Tiffin. I'm here with my inevitable co-host, H.A. Conrad. Good morning, H.A.
Good morning.
This is the podcast about all things zombie, and it is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform that makes it easy to create your own website. They've got tools. They've got 24-hour support. We think you should use their website to make your website.
I agree.
Enough said.
And if you'd like to get 10% off and you're a first time user, put the word zombie into the little area there in your cart, and our friends at Squarespace will give you a little bit of a deal for being a listener of Reanimated. So thank you, Squarespace.
Cool. All right. So we've been offline for a couple weeks, but we're back and better than ever on Reanimated. Um,
We're even more
we
animated.
even more animated than before.
Mm.
We are going to be talking today for special episode number 80 about a film that we enjoyed the first one of. That was a dangling participle, but we're going to go with it. Dead Snow 2, Red or Dead,
Correct.
a Norwegian project that embraces its Norwegianness.
It definitely does, but it also brings in a lot of Americanness into this particular sequel.
This one does bring, yeah, it stretches that envelope a little bit in a fun way. But we'll get to that because first we have a couple of things to talk about in terms of Z-related events and the news. And so, first off the bat, something that we were very excited to learn about in the past couple of weeks, and we did review the first two episodes of the new season of The Strain, and
Yeah.
talked about some of our hopes and dreams and disappointments from those two episodes. And we haven't really reviewed the rest of it, but
I have to say, I have some mixed feelings about this news item, just because this character has been featured so prominently throughout this series, and he's kind of the character I love to hate.
no, you don't. You just want it to go away.
Nah, it's sort of fun talking about it. But anyway, I'm gonna let you unveil this great story since you're the one who brought it to my attention.
Well, I feel like the world probably already knows, but okay. So Ephraim Goodweather's awful wig was actually very slowly killed in last week's episode of The Strain. Uh, I it's great. So Ephraim just yeah, I'm not going to go into the story, but he shaves his head. Corey Stoll is his own bald head again, although not quite because they still have to make it look like he's not actually bald
Um,
naturally. So they have to make sure he looks like he's got enough stubble on the top of his head. But it's I'm willing to go with that.
but there's been a few tongue-in-cheek articles about the death of the hairpiece, and very quite humorous. So we're gonna throw some of those in the show notes. In other news, Stuart, you mentioned that you found you found evidence of a zombie walk gone wrong in Russia, which kind of it's interesting that this was the reaction, just given how prevalent zombie walks are here in the U.S. They happen all the time. There's generally when you throw anything into Google news search or into any search engine that you might choose. Um, you see all these different things about zombie walks raising money, raising awareness, people just having fun with it. So apparently they did not receive the zombie walk as they weren't as excited about it in St. Petersburg, Russia. And apparently this is an annual zombie walk, so it's not like this is new, but apparently this upsets some Orthodox Christian activists who want this walk to be banned. So, I think basically the objection of the group is that the zombie gatherings are harmful to minors because they popularize death.
And they seem to incentivize suicide by their opinion, which is insane.
Yeah, it's a little strange. So anyway, I just thought this was this is very strange. And the organizers, as part of what they were going to do to try to block it, which would be to try talking to them. And so I guess they like try to infiltrate the zombie ranks. I admit this sounds somewhat humorous, almost like it could be a mockumentary, in terms of how they would stop them. But, I'm applause for the people that are going forward with the walk anyway, despite the opposition. Get your zombie on. Have fun. That's all I have to say about that.
Yeah, kind of interesting news out of Russia. And then we have a little bit of Fear the Walking Dead news. There's been a lot of stuff kind of floating around, a lot of interviews with the cast members, which for the most part I'm not really interested anymore. Now that I've got a launch date and I know the cast,
right?
And we got those first couple interviews with Kim Dickens and Cliff Curtis, but now I don't really want to know anything else for the most part. But this one, it was interesting.
Yeah.
So Tech Times reported that the Fear the Walking Dead will feature Patient Zero.
Yes, which is very interesting given the tenor of the comics, the graphic novels. It's always been something they never really explain things, so the fact that they're unveiling this in LA, no less, is interesting. How do you feel about that, Stuart? Because we talked a little earlier, and I have to say, I think I'm in agreement with your opinion on this.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great plan, a great idea to have. Well, I just think it's a little odd that the Patient Zero is going to be in LA of all places, and then if they're going to start going down this road and expect us to believe that every single person on Earth is infected, I feel like it's maybe a can of worms better left unopened.
Well, I agree with you as well, because if this is going to be in real time, and this is, supposedly this is the beginning, if they're actually showing us Patient Zero, and we're thinking it's the same timeline as The Walking Dead, or at least the timeline, when Rick gets shot in the first episode.
Mm-hmm.
You're correct. How do you kind of grasp the whole contagion getting out and getting around the entire world in that span of time? I don't really buy it.
Well, we'll have to see how they treat it. They might. I mean, recent interview with an actress who portrays. So this is not even coming from the highest echelon. This is an actress
so maybe this
interview.
maybe this is a teaser. Maybe this is just them trying to spice things up. But I'm still excited. I'm very excited to see this premiere. It's going to be excellent. So, or at least I hope it will be. And it's nice because we get like a double shot. We do Fear the Walking Dead, and then Walking Dead premieres a little later on. So, kind of nice. To me, it's great having this show up in August. So August 23rd is when this premieres. So it's going to be very, very soon.
There's going to be just a week between the two shows, basically.
Right.
So nice. Yeah, totally psyched. And we'll see. I don't know. I've just been seeing all these pictures and videos of the cast members like doing red carpet stuff and doing a lot of interviews, and I want to know what they know.
Yeah, me too. So it's gonna be good. So I look forward to discussing that with you once the premiere happens.
Yeah. So for now, let's move on to Tarvik, Norway, and the icy plains that surround it. This film, just like the first one, was really enjoyable.
I agree. Although with this film, they definitely got a bump in budget to make it. So Dead Snow was made with about 800,000 US dollars. This sequel got a very big budget boost, so they made this with 5.2 million. And it does show a bit. It does have less of that shaky cam independent film feel, even though it is quite quirky.
And they use a lot of sets.
They do use a lot of set
more
pieces.
Varied sets than they did in the first film. Basically, it was either they were outside somewhere running around in the snow, or in the ice caves,
or in the cabin.
Or in the cabin, right? And
so there's basically 3 areas. In this, they're all over the place.
Yeah, but I kind of love it when sequels start right after the first film. I don't know why I enjoy that so much, but that was a cool element for me. Was like you don't need to do a whole lot of catch up, even though they show you a lot of flashbacks.
Right. Well, and that's the thing. I think you could, without watching the first film, because of how they do a little synopsis at the beginning, I think you could just watch this without having watched the first film. Although I recommend watching the first film. So that was kind of nice. And I agree with you. I love how they picked up right where we left off. And I thought it was fantastic. And this film has all the things that I loved about the first film, that very quirky sense of humor.
Oh man, yeah,
Totally quirky. Lots of like bizarre, surreal, tongue-in-cheek dialogue. Some really great, disgusting gallows humor in terms of some of the kills and things like that. I just thought it was really well done.
yeah. Same guy directed and wrote Tommy Wirkola. He wrote the first one and directed the first one. But obviously a slightly bigger cast, and we get some American cast members who are playing
Yeah,
Americans.
some pretty
And one of
great
them,
ones.
yeah,
One of my favorite people.
specifically, yeah, Martin Starr, who it looks like I don't know when they must have shot this, but he doesn't look anything like his character on Silicon Valley.
Yeah, yeah.
So like he has much shorter hair. He doesn't have the facial hair, right? So
Right.
I'm not sure when this was shot necessarily, but uh, like a younger, fresher faced Martin Starr shows up suddenly in this film, and it's you kind of recognize his voice on the phone, and before you get to see his face, and then you see him, and you're like, holy shit,
It's him.
that's awesome. Yeah, and then he has two American ladies working with him as in their roles as this zombie squad team,
Right.
and it's kind of funny, it's kind of annoying, it's kind of supposed to be,
Yeah.
right? Like they're supposed to be slightly annoying Americans, and they do make fun of them for being slightly annoying rah-rah patriot
Americans, yep.
Americans at one point, but they don't beat that over your head too much.
No, not too much. They do beat the nerdy Geek Squad thing over the head a bit, which is fine.
Yeah, a little bit.
But it's meant to be that way. But I thought that I thought it was amusing seeing it through Tommy Wirkola's eyes. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
like having that as part of the film is pretty funny.
Otherwise, the only cast member who returns. Well, actually, that's not true. But there are two cast members who return, right off the bat. Well, and the zombies, I guess.
Right, right,
That's
right.
not-
In addition to
But
the zombies.
Martin is really the main guy,
Right.
who was kind of evolved to be the main guy in the first film. He's the one who cut off his arm and got back to the car, and that's where we start out. And there were so many things the first half of this movie that made me cringe because but like also they were so on the nose. It
Right.
almost hurt my immersions.
Right.
The worst thing was mouth to mouth resuscitation on the
Yeah,
zombie.
yeah. Of course.
In the beginning, that was the worst thing. Things got worse from there.
I know, and I didn't think that they could, and they did.
But I'm like, oh God, yeah, that was horrible.
Yep, yep. And then of course the kid element, which was
The kid and
that
babies.
was so the kid and babies, but the kid especially just was like, I mean, the only thing that would have made that worse is if they had made the kid come back.
Yeah.
They didn't, thankfully, because
That-
I was really I was waiting for that to happen, and then it didn't, and I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Would that have been worse, or was this probably? I don't know. Like making him come back as a zombie, then
He's not totally dead, and you don't feel
I-
quite as bad about it, I
yeah, I
guess.
don't know. Like you circle back out of, like he was accidentally murdered. But if I don't know, if he came back as a zombie, it would have been less horrible in a way.
Yeah, I guess so. It
So
was
for me-
pretty horrible and dark, and you're just like, oh my God. But the helplessness. So for those of you who haven't seen this, but I again recommend that you see it. So Martin, part of the one of the running stories and one of the sort of driving forces of the storyline is that his arm had been cut off, and when the emergency services recovered him, there was a zombie arm in the car. They assumed it was his and sewed it onto him. and it gives him, he calls it the arm of Satan, and it's very Evil Dead.
Yeah.
And you know, there's a lot of Evil Dead references and that kind of thing. But so this arm causes him to do bad things, and his realization about this, like how he's not in control. I have to say, this actor is really great portraying this. He does a really, really good job. But so he accidentally kills the kid while trying to save him because his on
He's
the
already
arm.
and he's already killed a few like doctors
Yeah.
and tried to kill a cop.
Right. And you know, and if you think about it from the normal people's perspective, they think Martin's a raving lunatic. So, you know, all the stuff that he says, they just are like, yeah, whatever, dude. He's like, they're all coming to kill us, you know. And he's crazy and violent. So there's that element too. And so he's a wanted man while trying to save the world from the Nazi zombies. So I really thought that this actor did such a great job. At just really playing up his shock and disgust at what's happened to him. I thought that was kind of nice. And then, you know, sort of building into a more like hero type character throughout the film. So, and there was definitely humor in the first one. I felt like it was just more blatant in this film.
Yeah, I think that they decided to go a little lighter in a way, but also at the same time, some of those jokes are horrifying, you know.
Oh yeah, they are, but they're horrifying in that awful, awful way. But that is a very, I feel like it's a very Norwegian sensibility, as I said. Like even some of the lines are just so like non sequitur and out there. And so the actor that plays Martin is named Vegard Hoel. But he did a fantastic job.
Yeah. You know what? One thing that I didn't really love about this film, and it didn't hurt my overall appreciation, though, was the police force in Tarvik, I guess.
That was very. Did you feel like there was a police force piece, and so these are sort of your bumbling, strange local police people, and that did feel a little out of place to me. It felt, quite honestly, like they were trying to mesh Shaun of the Dead with Hot Fuzz.
I just felt like they needed 25 more minutes
A
for
filler?
their movie. Yeah, it felt like filler to me the whole time.
It felt like filler, and I thought they were going to do something more with it and that they would end up playing a bigger part, and they just didn't.
Yeah.
And I don't know exactly what purpose they served, but you know, it was that. I agree with you. I didn't think that was extraordinarily strong, but everything else was pretty good. It was enjoyable. It was funny. I definitely got some laughs out of it while also being totally disgusted by certain pieces.
Yeah, one of those pieces that was funny and disgusting, and like they kept coming back to that well, but it worked almost every time. It was the poor blonde zombie, like the good guy zombie.
The disabled zombie, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was rough. It was like this zombie that Martin creates and controls, and he's basically like a zombie lapdog, and it's just like he's very strange. I don't even know, and I don't know why it worked. It felt like it shouldn't work.
It did feel like you felt guilty for laughing.
And then
basically.
you're laughing, and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm the worst person in the world. So.
And to me, that's genius that they could pull that off. You know,
Totally.
So I mean, they killed that zombie in horrible ways, like 3 or 4 times. But it always somehow the actor, without even speaking, manages to convey like a sense of kindness or empathy. Even at the end of the movie, when he only has like one eye left and no face.
No face, and his like limbs are kind of dripping off of him. Like melted off of him. Like it's so bizarre. And he doesn't talk at all. He just kind of moans in this weird, strange way.
Whimpers.
Or whimpers, I guess is a better way, yeah. So
pretty fantastic. And then what did you think of the premise of I mean, they basically fight fire with fire is kind of the moral of the story here.
Yeah.
How did you like the whole communist like Russian zombie element?
I thought it was I thought it was an interesting way to go that you needed your own zombie army to fight, and I kind of liked them the way that they did that. The power thing, the only thing, the whole power of bringing the zombies to life was kind of strange and went very magic-y to me. A
Yeah.
little over the top, so I wasn't loving that, but I did, I liked the idea that the like American nerdy guy did the like research, and I also liked how he was the commentator about the fact that this is a whole new zombie genre, that the rules are not like any zombie film, so he's just like making fun of it like within the film, which I really loved. So I kind of enjoyed the fact that they brought the zombie Russian army to life, because this was just sort of more of that, and it just gets more and more ridiculous, and so because they're making so much fun of themselves, I feel like I could accept that a little bit more because it was so over the top. But, I definitely liked that aspect better than the weird cop piece of it.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, God, when they at the final battle like that, where when they took over this small town's basically local football field, it looked like, and the cops just all die except for two or three of them. They never did anything.
no, I know.
Yeah. Um, I felt really, I don't know if I felt bad or good for this town that got taken over by this film, because they had so many people dressed up as zombies fighting each other in the middle of this town for a while.
Right.
And a tank.
Yeah. And then the tank part of it was always kind of sort of a little bit out there, but
It stretched the ability to believe, yeah, and the fact that they were just using like fuel from a bus that, and they did the siphoning through some intestine.
intestines.
Yeah,
What did
but
you think about the odd like doctor piece? I thought that was a very strange, the Nazis doctor.
yeah, was there a doctor in the
I
first
don't
one?
remember that there was. But it was that I felt like was a very odd added on piece.
Yeah, but it was also it made for some laughs in the final battle when he's just patching the Nazi zombies back together. Like, he's got like a little first aid station in the back,
Hmm.
and if one of his zombies comes back to him without any intestines, he just stuffed a bunch of straw in there and cinched him down and sent him back out to fight again. I thought that was pretty
Yeah, that
funny.
was pretty good.
It felt kind of like the Frankenstein's Army film that we saw,
Yeah,
except that film didn't really have a sense of humor,
yeah,
whereas this
no,
one was kind of all humor.
yeah.
The final fight scene between Martin and the Oberst, Herzog rather,
Hmm.
was fantastic. The choreography.
Oh no, it was so great. I was actually I have in my little note here the whole scene with them in the house
Yeah. Oh my God, what
was
a scene.
phenomenal. It was phenomenal, and it had like very Jackie Chan elements to it. Just in terms of the usage of various props, just right there in the house, especially in the kitchen. That was so well done.
Kitchen was fantastic. When Herzog throws Martin upstairs and then he falls
Down
down
the
the
stairs.
stairs
Oh,
again,
it
all
was
in
so
one
good.
take.
It was really good. That was an amazing fight scene.
Yeah, it was actually incredible.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff to love about this film. I definitely, I enjoyed it a lot more than probably, honestly, the last few things. I've liked things that we have watched recently, and there's things that I love and hate, but I feel like generally very positive about this, and I would actually recommend it. Like, I'd recommend this to my friend Derek to have him watch. He'll probably hate it because it has all the intestines, but, but I still feel like it was a lot of fun, and just what I wanted, in the summertime, just something kind of light and silly, and super weird, and as you said, makes you feel kind of weird for laughing.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. And then there was the other human character who I don't think he actually lived till the end. The guy from the museum.
Oh yeah, I liked him too.
He was nice, but there was some weird elements of like there was like a running homophobic joke about his
Yeah,
character.
that kind of bothered me, and I was like, "Are you really gonna go there?" And I was really hoping that they wouldn't, and it just kind of that theme kind of continued. I liked his character though, like I liked the idea that he was in the basically in the part of the gang, part of Martin's army that he starts building.
Yeah.
Like, I loved that aspect of it, but I didn't like the homophobia piece of it because I felt like that was terrible.
It felt unnecessary. Like,
There was no need to do it. You could have just had him as this weird, strange dude working at the museum without adding that element in at all, and it was strange that that's what they chose to do. I did like his interactions with the nerdy zombie women, the zombie fighters, how they were like, you need to be bait. So, that was kind of fun.
Yeah. And there was
and him making
scene...
fun of their Americanness.
Yeah. Well, yeah. They were, yeah. The tank also does blow up a baby carriage with a baby in it.
Yep.
That happens.
It does. But also, all the, a lot... Did you notice how, an inordinate number of the zombie home invasion scenes involve, the Nazi zombies invading the houses, involve, elderly people?
Yeah.
And, just really... It's just a very strange, creepy thing to do. I thought that was a little odd. But generally, I like this thing.
I think, yeah, when you get into the real details, that we probably have some other issues, but overall, I left, I finished this film thinking that was freaking awesome. I guess there isn't a whole lot to say about it because it is basically a kind of a small story in a way, but they really hit a couple of high notes with the brutal nature of it in the beginning, murdering a young American teenager.
Yes.
And not even a teenager. I think he was probably 10.
Yeah.
Oh God.
But you know what? One of the things I liked about this is that typically with sequels, you don't find them to be as strong as this was. And I thought that he did a great job in delivering it, showing that it wasn't a fluke. I never saw his first film, which was the Hansel and Gretel Witch Hunters. Did you ever see that?
No. Is that the one with Jeremy Renner?
Yes. So I didn't realize until, I guess I should have, but I didn't realize until I was prepping for this show that he had been the director who did that. And I know he did some independent things before that, but I think he gets the horror genre, and I liked this, and I thought, especially for a sequel, you typically see that they are just truly poor shadows of their premier brethren. And while I thought that this was a very different film from Dead Snow, I thought that he did a good job at delivering something that was watchable and fun.
Yeah. And they did a good job of scaling, often, from the first film to the sequel, you run into issues of, all right, how do you make this bigger,
right,
but not stupid?
Mm-hmm.
And so the scale definitely got larger in this film, but it was still 40 miles. It wasn't.
Right.
It wasn't not all of Norway or anything. They controlled the scaling up in a way that was manageable. And actually, the post-credit scene shows that Herzog isn't actually completely dead, so
right,
it might still. They might make a third one.
Right.
But I don't know if that's a good idea or not. But whatever.
I'd like to see what else he does, I think he's capable of doing other things, so I would rather see him do something new as opposed to another sequel to this. But perhaps that is just me.
So, as we've discussed, we are big fans of Dead Snow 2, Dead or Red or Dead. Not sure which order those go in. And we would heartily recommend it to any of our listeners.
With the caveat of the couple of things that we've mentioned, but I think it's fun. I think if you're into the zombie genre and into the more comedic aspect of it, I don't know that Bill would have enjoyed the blood and the sort of gory piece of this, but I feel like he could have watched this more than other films. How about, what do you think? For the non-zombie fan.
I think unfortunately, I think it's not going to appeal to the non-zombie fan. In
Mm,
my experience, I think the darkness in it
it's too
only
dark.
appeals
Yeah,
to a special kind of freak like you and
like
me. It's
us.
just the fact that we are able to laugh at the horrible things that are happening.
Yeah, you're
It's
right.
almost like it's a love. It's written lovingly to
Disgust
nerd
yourself.
fans, like the Martin Starr character. It's like made for those people who, which is a clique that we kind of belong to.
It is true. Okay, I'll give that to you. I'll give that to you. So,
It might just be like the best zombie fan film because of the references and the way that they play on your worst nightmares, like giving CPR to a zombie.
right. Indeed.
But yeah, so Red, Red or Dead, Dead or Red, Dead Snow 2, awesome film. Go out and see it. But then next time on episode 81 of Reanimated, join HA and me, Stuart Tiffin.
That is your name.
Stuart Tiffin. Just sounds so good when I say all my names together.
It's so professional. It's great.
Um, Next week when we discuss the season premiere of Fear the Walking Dead, the wait is over, or it will be.
Woohoo! I'm pretty excited.
And so we'll throw up a podcast shortly after not shortly, but maybe in the next couple of days after the premiere happens, and we'll hammer it out. We'll figure out what's going on in LA.
First impressions. First impressions. So yeah, I'm looking forward to talking about that with you after all of this anticipation.
This is kind of like the biggest event to happen to our podcast since World War Z, the movie,
That's true. I agree with you on that point.
and that was like month 2 of our
I know.
podcast.
I know. But anyway, I can't wait to talk about it with you. But in the meantime, if anybody has comments or saw Dead Snow 2 and want to give us their thoughts on it, feel free to tweet at us at Reanimated PCast on the Twitters. Or you can shoot us an email at reanimatedpodcast@gmail.com. Is that correct?
Oh my God.
I know, right? It's terrible. You go ahead, because you're better at it.
You've got it. That's it. Reanimatedpodcast.com is our website.
Nice, nice. I'm so good. I'm so good.
Sure.
Anyway, until next time, adieu.
Adieu, indeed.
All right, and we're out.
Goodbye.